Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Sunday evening, August 31, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you all like this video. I'd really appreciate it if you all get this video up to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season, that's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section, but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below letting me know what the has been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so considering that today is the final day of August, we need to highlight the post that was made in the video that was posted on the last day in July about what the weather would have been like for the month of August. And as you can see here, we're looking at the climate forecast system in that last video, and we see that it was predicted that would have gotten in on some slight greens that represents anywhere from maybe an inch or two above average in terms of the rainfall for the month of August. And boy, I don't even know what to say. Did that actually even verify, or was it actually just a very hot and dry summer for the most part? Definitely not for western parishes. We saw that western parishes definitely got in on some decent rainfall almost every single day. And then we had that tropical wave sometime last week across the east, if not the weekend. Well, we're grateful for whatever rainfall we got. But regarding what's expected as we head into September, the climate forecast system is showing that Jamaica should be shaded in some yellows, some whites, and some greens. So we're on the border of all of the activity. Above average rainfall looks to be across the western end, normal rainfall across the central end, below average rainfall in the yellows across the northeastern end. But that's just one model. Regarding the CANSIPS model, CANSIPS definitely looking quite interesting. A lot of greens that represents above average rainfall, especially across northern South America, into Central America and Mexico, where we're seeing those dark greens into the blues that represents maybe even up to 8-10 inches of rainfall if that actually takes place. We see Jamaica right here shaded in some of the greens that represent maybe up to 2 inches of rainfall above average. What does the NMME model show? Well, almost similar to the CFS in a sense. We're seeing more of the yellows that represents below average rainfall. Quite interesting. One model in between, one model above average, the other model below average. What does the CARICOF show? That's the Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum. And we're basically looking at the outlook for August, September, and October combined. And unfortunately, it still looks like Jamaica should be shaded in whites. Basically normal rainfall, so it's not below average in the yellows, oranges, or browns, and it's not above average in the blues into the purples. Normal rainfall is what the CARICOF is predicting. We'll see if it actually plays out. I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs if God spares life. Regarding the Atlantic hurricane and tropical storm activity based on data from 1944 to 2020, we can see that we should be somewhere right in here. We're wrapping up August now. We're at the end. So we're somewhere in here. We should be getting up in there in terms of tropical cyclone activity. We know that the peak is around September 10. When we say the peak, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to be having a lot of hurricanes on the peak date of the hurricane season. Usually there's at least one system out there. If it's not a tropical storm, it's a hurricane. We're definitely on that date for sure, September 10th, to show that yes, we're in hurricane season. And then as you can see, we start to taper off as we head throughout the month of September into October, and then we wrap it up in the end of November. So we still have a lot of hurricane season to go. But regarding the next 10 days, we're looking at the tropical and subtropical cyclone points of origins and tracks based on data from 1851 to 2023. All of these yellow dots that we're seeing here represent where we've seen something form. If it's not a tropical storm, it's a subtropical storm, especially up here in the northern portion of North Atlantic. We see a lot of them across the main development region between Africa and the Eastern Caribbean. Look, you notice we barely see any across the Caribbean forming. Only a few across the Eastern Caribbean. Only 2 right here across the Central, if not 3 to the Southern Caribbean. Then the Western Caribbean going bonkers. Just to show you that the Central Caribbean waters aren't always that conducive for tropical cyclogenesis, because the trade winds move very quickly down in here. So it's very hard for these systems to form. If they haven't already formed east of the island, then they're going to be having a hard time formulating in this era. But we see that a lot of them have made it across the Caribbean. All of these black lines pushing through into the Gulf, curving to the north of the Caribbean, off to the east of the US. A lot of them right here just to the west of Mexico as well. Very interesting. We'll see if we actually get some more systems to form as we head throughout the first 10 days of September. And even the typical origins and tracks map right here. Well, this is in August. Hold on, let me see if I can find the September map. Okay, there we go. Now we're heading into the typical tracks and origins for September. And there we have it. We usually have some of these systems pushing into the Caribbean, pushing into the southern Gulf, if not the northern Gulf. A lot of them passing to the north of the Caribbean. Very interesting. It's the peak of hurricane season, so all of these eras are in play for some form of system passing over. So don't look and say, oh, they're all going to pass to the north of us. They could definitely push through into the Caribbean. If we remember Hurricane Dean, well, not Hurricane Dean. Hurricane Dean was August. If we remember Hurricane Gilbert and Hurricane Ivan that pushed through the Caribbean and even passed to the south of Jamaica, those are definitely some formidable September hurricanes. So we definitely have to stay alert to see exactly what's going to be taking place, especially considering that the eastern to the central Pacific is starting to have that very La Nina-like look. Look at all of the blues that represents below average sea surface temperatures. Even although La Nina has not been declared as yet, we're heading towards that. And we know La Nina is basically when we have cooler than average sea surface temperatures across this part of the world, the eastern to the central Pacific, thus creating less upper level wind shear in the Atlantic. El Nino, more above normal sea surface temperatures in the yellows, oranges, and reds over this kind of the world. Then we have a lot of upper level wind shear tearing the tops of the thunderstorms off, in general making it hard for storms to form. So far we've been in a neutral-like pattern, and if you remember, we had neutral-like conditions when we had Hurricane Beryl in July 2024. So we can definitely get some formidable systems to push across the main development region into the Caribbean. So we definitely have to stay alert. It is hurricane season. We have a lot of very warm ocean temperatures across the Caribbean into the main development region to work with. This is as of the latest update that just came out on August 30. That was yesterday. So we can definitely see that these systems won't be short on any form of warm water. And it's not only about the surface of the ocean or the skin of the ocean, but look at this. Even the deep warm water, this is the ocean heat content, and all of these greens into the yellows into the oranges and reds represents that deep warm water. Look at how warm the waters are across the Caribbean into the western Caribbean right there, especially surrounding Jamaica. Look at all of these reds. If we actually get a system to sit on top of these warm waters, they aren't going to be causing any upwelling and maybe some blue wake like what we had Hurricane Erin do right here to the northeast of the Bahamas and the east of the US, because the warm waters deep into the ocean are just going to be churned up even more and strengthening the systems that actually try to take advantage. So we just hope that we don't have any systems trying to take advantage of this very deep warm water. It won't be nice at all for any of the islands down here that would be affected. Taking a look at the U.S. National Hurricane Center 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook that came out at 6:15 p.m. Jamaica time, we can see that we have a brand new code orange. It was a code yellow yesterday. Now it is a code orange right here just off the coast of Africa. It is expected to push up towards the west-northwest and possibly develop. And if we take a look at the infrared satellite imagery, we can see the clouds, the showers, and the thunderstorms associated with this tropical wave right here off the coast of Africa. Not really looking that organized right now, but it's trying to get its act together, especially considering that it just came off of Africa. And if we zoom in on the latest here from the Hurricane Center, they stated a tropical wave located over the far eastern tropical Atlantic is producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions appear conducive for slow development of this system, and a tropical depression could form late this week or next weekend. This system is expected to move westward to west-northwestward at around 15 miles per hour across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic throughout the week. And we see that they've given the area a 0% chance of cyclone formation within the next 48 hours, that's the next 2 days, and a 40% chance of cyclone formation within the next 7 days. And even the Euro and the GFS supercomputer model runs are in agreement that it should definitely develop for sure. It is not an invest as yet, so we wouldn't have the spaghetti models to show, but clearly it is going to be pushing towards the west. This is the Euro's position of the system, valid for 6Z on Sunday, September 7, which is actually 1 a.m. On Sunday, we see a lot of greens that represent showers, thunderstorms, a lot of yellows into the oranges, even more rainfall totals there. And the contour lines are the isobars surrounding the area of low pressure right in here. At 1 a.m. on Sunday, the GFS has it in the circle, but it's more northeast of where the Euro has it. And we can clearly see that the GFS is definitely stronger than the Euro in terms of the intensity. 988 millibars, that definitely could be some kind of hurricane status. 1008 millibars, that's a tropical depression, if not a tropical storm for sure. Definitely stronger on the GFS. GFS definitely biased with this system, but we see that it is pushing more northward on the GFS. A weaker system would be pushing more westward, as we can see on the Euro. Very interesting times ahead. We'll see if it actually plays out. I know that if something should form, the next name on the list is Gabrielle. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, there is supposedly a tropical wave right here across the central Caribbean, currently affecting northwestern Venezuela, if not the Dominican Republic. Another tropical wave right here across the central portion of the main development region. And we can definitely see that tropical wave right here off the coast of Africa that the Hurricane Center has highlighted. All of these entities, as we know, are being steered from east-west, all courtesy of that strong ridge of high pressure to the north. If we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before we lost the sunlight, let's see if we can make out some of these entities. So there's supposedly a tropical wave somewhere in here. Not really seeing much moisture with that tropical wave. Boy, I don't know what's happening with these tropical waves these days. There's another tropical wave affecting the Hispaniola here. Yes, we see some thunderstorms across portion of Hispaniola, but not really much across the sea. And we can definitely see that tropical wave that just came off of Africa for sure. But we can clearly see all of these entities are being steered from east-west, all courtesy of the ridge of high pressure to the north. We will be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean's weather later on, and let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Sunday, August 31, 2025. It was stated that rainfall could have been in the forecast of parts of some central and western parishes during the afternoon on Sunday. And we know central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, like St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, and St. Catherine. While western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? At around 4:45 p.m., the infrared satellite images were posted not only here on our Twitter page with the Jamaica, but they were also posted on our Instagram page with the Jamaica, on our TikTok page with the Jamaica, and on our Facebook page with the Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So we definitely saw the burst of convection, that thunderstorm activity across especially western parishes for sure. We're talking about especially sections of St. Elizabeth spilling into sections of Westmoreland. And then some of these clouds might have made it over into Hanover, if not St. James and Trelawney. More so bringing some overcast skies, not necessarily rainfall at all. And if we take a look at the visible, we can definitely make out what took place. Huge burst of convection across St. Elizabeth. Not really seeing much across central parishes. Maybe some partly cloudy skies across the south central areas, but that was basically it. And then, as you can see, by the time we were starting to lose the sunlight, everything was starting to dissipate. Now we can see it even better here. All of the blues into the greens, into the yellows, oranges, reds. That represents that cumulonimbus cloud cover. Not to mention the sparkling white dots that represent that lightning strike, if not lightning flashes activity. Especially across St. Elizabeth, they definitely got some nice convection today for sure. And if we take a look at the Bogwalk Gorge camera right here, the live camera from C Jamaica's YouTube channel, this was at around 1:04 p.m. So it's nothing like yesterday with that little mini freak storm that we saw. Today it was definitely sunny skies, people in their vehicles going about their business. Nothing in the way of bad weather taking place at all. And I would like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to see more live streams like this, just visit C Jamaica on YouTube. They have these live streams all for you all to view for free. So subscribe today so that you don't miss out. Taking a look at the accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website. I doubt this actually happened. Kingston, St. Andrews, St. Catherine getting in on rainfall. Nope. But definitely that rainfall across section of Westmoreland into St. Elizabeth for sure. And we definitely have some comments from some of our followers confirming what the weather is like in their area today. We had Shakir Channel stating, however, dry like chip and hot. I have Latoya Taylor stating, get little rain in St. Elizabeth where I am. And Ivory Reid stating, really one side of Jamaica? Yes, Ivory, one side, just the western end, getting all of today's rainfall. Alright, so let us reload the very latest still image from the Weather Nerds website, the very latest Jamaican Doppler radar image, the very latest Cuban Doppler radar image, the very latest Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar image, and the latest Cayman radar image to confirm what's happening right now. Alright, so the latest still image from the Weather Nerds website is showing 0025 UTC, which is actually 7:25 p.m. So this just came out 9 minutes ago, considering that it is 7:34 p.m. right now. And as you can see, just some leftover clouds associated with this afternoon's thunderstorms across the western end. So they're not necessarily seeing any stars in the sky across western St. Elizabeth, across Hanover into Westmoreland at this time. Definitely still cloudy from the clouds that brought that rainfall to section of Westmoreland into St. Elizabeth at this time. There's some high cirrus clouds, all of which are dissipating as we speak. Jamaican Doppler radar imagery not showing anything because it glitched out. The Cuban Doppler radar imagery not showing anything because it also glitched out. Looks like it glitched out at around, what time is this? Looks like, okay, there we go. So I think it's trying to get its act back together because it looks like it glitched out at around 12:20 p.m. Then it started to get back up and running at around 8:30 p.m. Jamaica time. Well, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is actually 7:30 p.m. Jamaica time. So maybe they're working on it. See a last frame. I think I can see some rainfall across the Cayman Islands at that time. The Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar not showing much of anything across northeastern Jamaica, but we do see some rainfall that affected portions of southeastern Cuba today. We even saw some rainfall across section of the western peninsula of Haiti. Regarding the Cayman radar, we can actually make out some of these rain bands in and around the Cayman Islands that we saw on the Cuban Doppler radar. We can also make out that rainfall across the southwest right here that was dissipating and pushing out towards the southwest of the island, associated with the clouds that we saw right here for sure. So it all adds up, it all makes sense. Taking a look at what's taking place right now, the live camera right here from C Jamaica's YouTube channel is showing downtown Kingston. Definitely calm, definitely quiet at this time. People walking about, going about their business. Nothing in the way of bad weather taking place. And that should be the order of the evening. Nothing in the way of bad weather taking place this evening into tonight at all. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see that we're 28 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Monday, temperature should dip down to about 26 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 25 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow. This map from the GFS is valid for 18Z on Monday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Monday, and we see Jamaica right here embedded in some yellows that represents up to at least 1 degree Celsius above average temperatures. And what are the average temperature for the month of August? We're about close to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 32.2 degrees Celsius. So if we're going to be receiving the yellows that represents at least 1 degree Celsius above normal temperature, it should be anywhere from 32.2 to maybe 33.2 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Monday. And unfortunately, we have some maintenance outage advisories here from my JPS Online Twitter page that we have to highlight. And we know that we have to highlight these because we know that when we have power outages somewhere across the island, it can definitely make the heat feel even worse because we don't have our fan or our AC to cool us down. So if you live or work in these areas, or if you have friends or relatives who live or work in these areas, please let them know that a power outage is coming their way on Monday, September 1, 2025. We're referring to Upton in St. Mary from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Bonham Hill in St. Mary from 2 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Rum Lane as well as Hartwell Gardens in Clarendon from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Also, we're referring to Sun Valley Road as well as Albion in St. James from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We're also referring to Montpelier Housing Scheme, sections of Gutters, Prospect, Alligator Pond, Downs, New Forest, sections of Comapen, Butt Up to Sea Air and Environs, all in the parish of St. Elizabeth from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we have some tips right here to beat the heat as usual. It states here, dress down, wear lightweight clothing and use sunscreen. Check on others, including children, elderly people with medical conditions and pets. Be cool, stay indoors and make use of fans and air conditioners. Avoid alcohol and caffeine as they can make dehydration worse. Limit non-essential strenuous activity during the hottest parts of the day. And I cannot stress enough the importance of keeping hydrated throughout the day. Drink lots of water even if you're not thirsty, and put away those sugary drinks and drink water instead. Taking a look at the dry air map, we know that the dry air is represented by what we see here on the key on the bottom. That's the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those words. And we see a lot of dry air extending all the way from Africa across the main development region through the Caribbean. We know that the dry air is responsible for keeping the atmosphere stable, making it harder for it to rain these days. It all makes sense why it's so hot and dry. But we see the moisture across where we have the tropical wave that just came off of Africa. A lot of moisture, the blues as well as the grays that represents a cloud cover, especially in the southwestern Atlantic into the Gulf, as well as off the coast of Central America. A lot of moisture down in those parts. All of the dry air is in our neck of the woods, extending from that part of Africa, the northwestern end of Africa for sure. It's making the atmosphere dry and hot. Goodness. But regarding the Saharan dust forecast for the next 3 days, we're heading into September 1, September 2, and September 3. As you can see, Jamaica should be in the clear for the next 3 days. We had some Saharan dust pushing through the central Caribbean. All of that dissipating the more west it pushes. You also see some Saharan dust pushing down from Africa, pushing into the main development region, but it's not that vigorous of a plume or anything like that. More than likely by the time it gets to the Caribbean, it has dwindled down. Regarding the wave forecast for tomorrow, clearly from the Gulf into the Caribbean, we're experiencing those light shades of blues to dark shades of blues that represents what we see here on the key on the bottom right. That's the 0.5 meter wave height to 1.5 meter wave height, and that's because of the winds that are expected. We see winds averaging anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15 knots right here across the Caribbean especially. And regarding Jamaica's wave forecast for tomorrow, to the north of Portland 0.6 meter wave height, to the north of St. Anne 0.4 meter wave height, to the north of Hanover 0.4 meter wave height, to the north of or to the south of Westmoreland 0.5 meter wave height, to the south of Clarendon 0.7 meter wave height, to the south of St. Elizabeth 0.8 meter wave height. And that's because of the winds that are expected. We see more of an easterly flow across the island tomorrow, averaging about 8 knots right here on the north coast to the north of St. Anne from the northeast actually. Easterly winds 10 knots to the south of St. Thomas, 9 knots from the east to the south of Manchester, and we see where the air is expected to pile up sections of some central and western parishes, especially the northern end, and with the upper level wind seeming to be coming in from the southwest tomorrow. Could definitely favor more of the isolated thunderstorms across sections of some northern parishes. So it's not going to be like today, where when we had those thunderstorms, those cloud tops were being fanned out in all directions because there was a lack of upper level wind shear. Tomorrow, those cloud tops could be sheared off towards the northeast, maybe bring more overcast skies, if not rainfall, to sections of some northern parishes. And regarding the actual rainfall forecast maps, this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are both valid for 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 11 a.m. Jamaica time. So in the late morning, the GFS specifically showing rainfall across the far eastern end, maybe section of St. Thomas, Portland, Kingston, St. Andrew. The Euro showing rainfall in the blues across eastern, central, and western parishes. I'm more inclined to believe what the GFS is showing for sure. We'll see if it actually plays out. Don't take the model's word for it. The models can be wrong. Then during the afternoon, look at where both models have the rainfall, mainly across sections of some eastern, central, and actually western parishes. We're seeing the blues that represent rainfall, especially across the northern parishes for sure. Very interesting. So look out for that rainfall if you're in St. Elizabeth, maybe St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, section of northern St. Catherine, St. Andrews, section of St. Mary, section of Portland, maybe even into St. Thomas, getting in on some afternoon rainfall. Very interesting. Day tomorrow, we'll see it actually plays out. Either way, in terms of the total accumulated precipitation forecast for the next 24 hours, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Monday, and we can clearly see the blue, well, the greens into the yellows into the oranges. It represents what we see here on the key on the right, anywhere from 0.1 of an inch of rainfall all the way up to maybe 0.5 of an inch of rainfall. The Euro going up to 0.51 of an inch of rainfall, the GFS going up to at least 0.32 of an inch of rainfall in the southwest. And we know that it could be more than that, it could be less than that. We have to take these forecasts with a grain of salt. And whatever happens, we'll definitely take it. We're in the month of September now. And in Kingston, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the top, we shall receive around, let's say, 90 millimeters of rainfall for the month of September. In Montego Bay, we get an increase up to 6.5 inches, close to 7 inches of rainfall by the month of September. And if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives in terms of rainfall for the month of September or for the entire year, you can visit weatherandclimate.com and that website to show you that information. And you can use this nice graphic right here that converts rainfall from inches to millimeters. We know that 1 inch of rainfall is about the same as 25 millimeters of rainfall. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what the next 7 days have in store for us according to the latest Euro and GFS supercomputer model runs that came out today. So keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here at the top as we go to the next 168 hours. Keep your eyes focused on Jamaica right here as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens that represents inches of rainfall. So let's see what's going to be taking place. So we just looked at Monday's forecast. Now it is time to look at what's expected on Tuesday all the way back to next Sunday. So 12Z on Tuesday is actually 7 a.m. and we actually see some greens across the northeastern end that represent some isolated shores on the Euro. Then during the afternoon we see that green that represents rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Tuesday morning not really much of anything across the east but definitely the southwest. And then Tuesday afternoon rainfall across some northern and western parishes. What do we see on Wednesday morning? Wednesday morning, some dots of greens across the south and to the east of us. Wednesday afternoon, look at that rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. Interesting. What does the GFS show for Wednesday morning? Wednesday morning, rainfall across the west, the south, and to the east of us. Wednesday afternoon, rainfall mainly across sections of some central and western parishes. What does Thursday morning look like? On Thursday morning, look at the abundance of moisture to the southwest of us in the yellows and reds. Interesting. We also see some moisture across the eastern end. Then on Thursday afternoon, rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Thursday morning, not really much of anything. Thursday afternoon, rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What do we see on Friday morning? Friday morning, some rainfall across some southeastern parishes. Friday afternoon, rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Friday morning, rainfall across the eastern end. Friday afternoon, rainfall mainly across central and western parishes. What does Saturday morning look like? On Saturday morning, not really much of anything across Jamaica. Saturday afternoon, rainfall across mainly central and western parishes. And then we're stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. So this is valid for Sunday, September 7. And we do see some moisture to the south of Jamaica by that time. We also see a lot of moisture to the south of Haiti at that time as well. What does the GFS show? Saturday morning, a lot of moisture across the north and the eastern end. Saturday afternoon, maybe some rainfall across some central and western parishes, and we're going to be stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. So this is also valid for Sunday, September 7. We're seeing some rainfall across the far eastern end. We're also seeing some moisture across the southwestern Caribbean into the central Caribbean. Very interesting. And that as we start to head into September, it's starting to moisten up. And that's why we want one more rainfall for sure. But regarding the total accumulated precipitation for the next 7 days, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are adamant that the most rainfall over the next 7 days from now all the way up until Sunday, September 7 should be across northern South America into Central America, so too sections of the Bahamas into Florida. All of those areas getting into the dark reds, into the purples and the pinks. That represents anywhere from 2 all the way up to 5 inches of rainfall, and we clearly see that it's both the Euro and the GFS models that are in agreement with that. So those areas could get on some isolated flash flooding for sure, while other areas that are shaded in the yellows, oranges, whereas those areas could get in on an inch or less of rainfall. We're talking about the Yucatan into the Greater Antilles and the Lesser Antilles for sure. But regarding Jamaica's total accumulated precipitation for the next 7 days, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until Sunday, September 7, and we're starting to see an increase in the rainfall. Finally, we're seeing an increase in rainfall. It's been a long time coming, because boy, wow, look at this rainfall amount. That's way more than what we've been receiving for the whole month of August. That was crazy. But clearly we're seeing an increase. We're seeing more yellow starting to come in, some oranges here and there. It represents anywhere from maybe 30 millimeters up to the 50 millimeters of rainfall rate. And we see that on GFS as well. So we're looking forward to more, afternoon rainfall within the next 7 days, especially across section of some central and western parishes for sure. And we need to highlight that it is September. September is the peak of the thunderstorm season in Jamaica. In September, we get more lightning, we get more freak storms, especially in the St. Elizabeth area, if not western parishes. So look out for that. If there's 1 month for you guys to get struck by lightning, it's usually September. So be on the alert when thunder roars. Go indoors for sure. Don't want to have any lightning related, injuries or anything like that at all. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Regarding what's happening across the Caribbean, not really seeing much. There's supposedly a tropical wave right in here affecting the Dominican Republic, but we're not really seeing much moisture regarding that. We'll see if it actually brings some of that rainfall to Jamaica tomorrow. Would be definitely grateful. Regarding the Doppler radar imagery of the northeastern Caribbean, though, let us see what's happening down here near Puerto Rico. Actually, some rainfall across some south central to northwestern Puerto Rican parishes. We're also seeing some moisture across the waters surrounding Guadeloupe and Dominica. And if we load these images from earlier today, we can see where a section of central to western Puerto Rico definitely got on some moderate to heavy rainfall. The Barbados radar showing some amount of rainfall pushing into section of Martinique, passing to the north of St. Lucia. Some moisture right here passing to the north of Tobago, passing to the south of Grenada right there. Regarding what's happening on the weather view of Doppler radar images, we can see some rainfall pushing in from the west, pushing into sections of southern Florida into the northern portions of the Bahamas. Some rainfall across northwestern sections of Cuba. We also see some rainfall right here across the Yucatan as well. And if we take a look at where the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Monday. And we can clearly see the greens into the yellows into the oranges and the reds represents up to 1 inch or less of rainfall for portions of Florida, section of Cuba, the Bahamas, section of Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, section of the Leeward Islands, section of the Windward Islands as well, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, section of Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Martin, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Bart, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Suriname, section of Venezuela, section of Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, section of Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Southern Belize, into section of the Yucatan as well. And we clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in agreement with that forecast. Regarding what's happening on the eastern Pacific side of things, we have a brand new tropical storm, that's Kiko, that's finally formed right here to the far west of where we still have that code red off the coast of Mexico. And if we take a look at the infrared, we can see the cloud showers and thunderstorms associated with Tropical Storm Kiko, and we can still see the clouds associated with that code red trying to get its act together to become the next name on the list, which after Kiko would be Lorena. But regarding Kiko, as of right now, it is a 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm. We know that tropical storms usually pack anywhere from 39 to 73 mile per hour wind, so it's definitely a low-end tropical storm, closer to tropical depression status than to category 1 hurricane status at this time. It is expected to move off towards the west. As a matter of fact, it's looking like it could even move more south of the US. As of right now, it's moving west at 9 miles per hour, and who knows, maybe it might just come close to Hawaii later on down the line, because we see that it's expected to take more of a westerly flow. Then who knows, maybe it might just lift northward later on. But it's still a lot of days away. We have to definitely pay attention to see exactly what unfolds though. On the western Pacific side of things, we no longer have that tropical storm that pushed into Vietnam. We now have a code yellow right here just to the east of the Philippines. A lot of cloud showers and thunderstorms right down in here. Something trying to formulate, but nothing organized at this time. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.